Welcome, college baseball fans, especially ACC fans. We got a special episode of the Summer League show. We are joined by someone who's working for the Cape Cod League, Grace Nugent, but she's also an ACC person, just like the host of this show. She works for Inside Carolina in Chapel Hill. Grace, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk some baseball. It's been a bit of a sporadic summer trying to talk about some of the summer league stuff, but I'm excited to talk some Cape ball with you. So first, let's just get right into it. What exactly do you do up there in the Cape? We know there's a lot of different interns up there doing different things. What is your job?
My job in specific, I started off as just like a writing and audio intern, but in true Cape League fashion, I now do so many different things. That's just what happens up here. I currently am running our entire Twitter. So if you see any fun tweets, that's me. Took that over about 3 weeks ago, maybe. I'll do social media stuff. I'll help handle and run our website. I'll do reports, features, write-ups, kind of whatever writing stuff is needed. Help our PR guy with some of his press release things, and then write and even do some on-camera work for Cape League TV.
That's so cool.
And hopefully I'll be weaseling my way into doing more of that for the CCBL playoffs. Especially just with, it takes a village. If you see like a bunch of people, you always see at games a bunch of people huddled at a picnic table in like these gray polos. We've gotten yelled at so many times for being on our computers during a baseball game, but that's the cog that turns the machine. And I've really enjoyed it. I cannot complain. I'm in Cape Cod for the summer watching baseball pretty much every night. So it's like it's one of my paradises, you could say.
Yeah, we talked about it in Omaha. You cover other sports, but baseball is your favorite. So I know you're having a blast up there. I'm jealous because you went right from Omaha. Basically, you had to go back to school or back to your apartment, pack up, and then go straight up to the Cape. So it's been probably a pretty quick summer so far.
Oh yeah, it's been fast. And then as soon as this is over, I'm going right back to school. Yep. So it's very much I've been covering baseball nonstop since like February, which yeah. I really can't complain. Like you said, it is my favorite sport. I could start talking to like one of the foul pools about it. That's just who I am. I'll strike up a conversation. I've met so many just people walking around in the outfield, fans, and I'll strike up conversations about mainly baseball because that's what we're all here for. And it's just awesome. But yeah, a lot of baseball. Can't really complain. Some nights it gets a little bit, I'm like, all right, then I remember where I am, what I'm doing, and it's pretty much all worth it.
Well, you are working, so there is an exhaustion factor in there. So don't feel guilty if you're feeling a little worn out. It's been a busy season, especially since Carolina went to Omaha, and you luckily you got to go. But that's at least you didn't drive like some crazy people.
Some people.
So, I'm also getting a mental image of you just chatting up a foul pole about baseball.
Oh, yeah.
So, but let's pivot real quick before we come back to the Cape. Let's talk about that UNC season, that Omaha trip. Obviously you didn't get to experience it back in 2018. I think the last time they were in Omaha. What was that like for you? This was it your second season watching UNC or third?
It's my second.
Second.
Yeah. So it was really surreal, especially because last season I watched all their postseason and reported on it from home. Because I just finished my freshman year. That's more of a typical thing that happens. But this season, everyone called it Cardiac Carolina during the postseason. And I was part of that crew because if you looked at my Apple Watch during games, my heart rate was like insane. And I started covering this team specifically in the fall, their media day. I'm in classes with some of them. Dalton Pence and I took a class called Baseball in the American Past. Great class, highly recommend. But it's just this, I went to like over 50 games. Like that was so much of my life that semester was the team. And then when they won the regional, especially with LSU, I was really nervous about that one. Pulled out a win. Huge. Same thing with West Virginia. And I ran into like Parks Harbor at a restaurant, and he said, yeah, I think I'm going to die at age 50 from like all the heart attacks we keep giving ourselves. And I was like, I think I'm right there with you, Parks, because when the boys got to go to Omaha, it meant I got to go to Omaha. And that was just such a surreal experience, seeing all of the emotion from them that they got to. I mean, that was one of their goals, was to go. Now, their ultimate goal was to win it, which obviously didn't happen, but they got to go and they played their hearts out, and they had just such a fantastic postseason run when so many people counted them out in the beginning. And especially for guys like Vance and Casey, like that was Omaha was their like swan song. And especially Vance, to wrap up his Carolina career in Omaha with the postseason he had. I mean, I wouldn't really want it any other way. Would I have loved for them to go to the championship and win? Yes. Did I always think that was the most realistic goal with where we were at in the season, exhaustion levels? No. But it was such a surreal experience being there, getting to meet so many players and like you, other like media members. I have so many new baseball friends, which I love. And it was definitely one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And I'm very grateful that I got to do it.
Yeah, and you wrote a really, really nice piece kind of on Vance Honeycutt. I know we're over a month after you've written it, well over a month after you've written it, but if anyone gets a chance, go check it out on Inside Carolina. It's, it's the culmination of Vance Honeycutt's career. Really nice piece that you wrote. I know it was kind of therapeutic for you as well, having covered Vance your entire time at UNC. So I really enjoyed that. But real quick before we get back to the Cape, there were so many moments. It's funny because UNC was actually part of the best game I saw this year, I think, when they played Wake Forest. Chase Burns' start in the ACC tournament ultimately didn't go their way. But after that, I mean, there's so many memories that it's hard to remember what even happened during the regular season with how many moments there were from, Gavin Gallagher, Cape, he's had a pretty good summer up at the Cape. And then obviously Vance Honeycutt, everything he did. What single moment was your favorite moment, of the season for the Tar Heels?
Single moment is so hard.
They did a top 10 like on their Twitter.
Well, I will say, what made me so angry is the few times I had to go home for family things, and I'm from Texas, so it's not close to North Carolina, was the Wake series and then the Wake ACC tournament game. I was home watching all of those, and I remember watching the series, and I was on my phone. Like, I had just gone out of like Good Friday service in church, and my mom was like, why are you on your phone? And I had just watched Casey Cook hit his second homer off Chase Burns. And I'm like, oh my God, he hit his second one. She's like, we're in a restaurant. Can you please just comport yourself? I was like, no, I cannot. And then my little brother's graduation, his 900 class graduation, took less time than the ACC tournament game. And I left to see his graduation, watched the whole thing, reported on it on my phone, came back, and they still had time. And they somehow lost that ACC tournament game, which was sad, but that's okay. But I think there's so many just small moments during the regular season that I think can be really overlooked that were just really big, whether it was a comment one of the coaches made or just a game. But I do think, them going to Omaha, watching them dogpile on the field, the final LSU game, all of the at-bats between Jason Jones and Dalton Pence, like all of those back and forth and those final LSU games, that one was heart palpitation inducing. But the final moment when they went to Omaha, dogpiling on the field, I went down because that's where like the media area is in their clubhouse. And I just kind of stood outside as where you can enter the dugout. And I saw all of them run back in with their hats. And then Coach Forbes hugged like 1,000 people. And it was insane. And just the love that team had for each other, I think it's really hard to kind of quantify and put into words, because obviously I'm not with them at practices every day, but they seriously just had a different kind of bond. And after Coach Forbes came off the podium after losing in Omaha against Florida State, he comes down. I'm sitting in the front row with one of my bosses, and he looks at us and was like, "Thank you guys for everything." And I was like, you're the one that just lost, but he's still thinking about other people. So, I mean, it was just such a wonderful experience. And I guess it's some of the small ones, but it's also like the we're going to Omaha. I have the recording of like the audio on my phone of like everyone cheering from where I was sitting. And it's awesome.
Yeah, Forbes is a special human being. I asked a question after they had lost to Tennessee in Omaha the first time, or they lost to Tennessee because they lost to Florida State after that. But when they lost to Tennessee, I asked a question because after UVA got eliminated, Brian O'Connor, obviously devastated, the UVA coach, was thanking was wishing every UNC player luck as they went by to get ready to play Tennessee. And I asked a question in the post game, and Forbes was talking about how great O'Connor was. But then after the interview, he came by and just patted me on the back and basically thanked me for the question. And I'd never asked Coach Forbes a question before or been, so it was nice of him to he obviously appreciated being able to talk about a fellow class act and Coach O'Connor, but it just shows that some of the bonds between some of the coaches even, but it also shows how great a person that Coach Forbes is, thinking about the media, who normally doesn't make the coaches happy because we're the ones questioning them.
That's for sure. He is a special coach, and I'm excited to have more years with him.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm thinking about that ACC tournament game. One of my favorite parts of it was your buddy, poor Adam, having to rewrite his story 3 or 4 times over the course of the game, as the game went back and forth. It was quite funny. I'm sure he wasn't as amused, but he's a character.
Oh, so. He is a character. He, I remember seeing some text about that, and kind of like my other IC intern Evan was really making fun of him for that one. Evan, they're the best. I love who I work with. So
yeah. Adam's one of my favorite beat writers to watch a game with, just because he's such a character. Just the commentary that he's providing, very humorous, very fun individual. So you're lucky to work with him, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to the Cape. Fenway Day. You got up there just in time for Fenway Day, right?
Oh yeah, I got to go. I was freaking out in the car because
I was gonna say, was that your first time?
Yes, it was my first time at Fenway. Now I'm not a Red Sox fan. I'm a Rangers fan.
Yep.
But it's Fenway Park. Like I took an entire class called Baseball in the American Past, and the amount of moments and things we talk about that happened at Fenway. I then proceeded to send a picture to my professor, and he loved it. But I played shipping up to Boston in the car probably 4 times on the 2-hour drive up there through Monday morning traffic. So fun.
I was going to say it should not have been 2 hours, but yeah, traffic.
And one of the other interns that I was driving the car, she's from the Cape, been to Boston a lot. So she's taking videos of me of Texas girl makes it to Boston. And I was like a kid, I walked in, and just like all the players, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, this is so cool. This is where Big Papi hit his home run. This is the Carlton Fisk foul pole. This is the Ted Williams seat. I was going a little bit crazy.
At least you were with other baseball fans, as opposed to somebody who doesn't care. If you're like, oh, look at this.
Some were like, Grace, what are you talking about? But which was true. But the day was quite long. All the teams got to do workouts in front of scouts. I got to meet a few scouts. One of my really close friends, he also took the class with me in Dalton, and he works for the Red Sox. So he came to say hi and did we fully nerded out on everything in that entire stadium, and just all the Red Sox lore in general. But it was a really, really cool experience to like be at Fenway Park. Get to actually like stand kind of on the dirt warning track, see the green monster. I know our videographer captured just some awesome moments of all the guys coming in and like their faces too. I mean, they got to like play like at Fenway on the grass, on the dirt. And they did, I mean, Gavin had a great day of BP. Then again, he was the only position player up there really at the time. But when we're talking about UNC guys, that was an abrupt transition. But he had a great day of BP and really showed out at Fenway, which is a really cool thing for him to be able to say, like, hey, I don't know if he hit any balls out of the park, but you're like, hey, I hit pretty well at Fenway.
Yeah, I mean that's the really cool thing they do, and that was pretty much how you kicked off your summer, right? For
Yeah.
Cape Cod, right? Because I think that was the first time I saw something that you'd posted up there. I was like, oh, I guess she made it. So, but no, that's just so cool. And the players getting to do that. Didn't they used to do an All-Star game, the All-Star game at Fenway?
I think they used to, but it's just so hard with the regular season. And I had been for both the MLB and the Cape League. And I think I'd been on the Cape for like maybe a week and a half. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to Fenway. And it was very much like, I'm a very talkative person, but I had to go up to so many people and do a ton of introductions because you're there for like 7 hours, actually probably longer. And while the teams aren't doing stuff, I would just go up and like talk, because that's basically my job, is to learn things, talk. And even the pitchers who didn't have anything to do, so many of them made the trip because they would just get to shag BP balls at Fenway Park. Boston Flannery and I talked about, he was like, if I ever got a Red Sox jersey and put Flannery on the back, I'd be the first person with their full name on a shirt. And I was like, that is a good idea. But it was a really cool experience, and I'm very glad that I got to do it. Now I have like a ton of photos of Fenway Park on my phone, and that's not even like my team's home field. I will, to cap off my summer as a present to myself, the Rangers are playing the Red Sox right after playoffs end. So I'll be going to a Rangers Red Sox game, freaking out over the fact that I get to see like Wyatt Langford in play and Corey Seager and everything, and then go back to school. So I'll be back to my park this summer at some point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been lucky to go to Fenway 3 or 4 times in the course of my life so far. The last time, crazy enough, was not for a baseball game. I got to see Liverpool play there, and they practiced. We got to go to a practice, and it was very strange because you had so much more access with the practice because there's only a couple hundred people that are allowed to go see the practice. But it's so weird seeing a different sport being played there because there's, it's a normal soccer field, but then the Green Monster's off to the right. So, like, it's very strange. But I love Fenway. I'm not a Red Sox guy, but that ballpark is my favorite because you just feel the history and it's just special. It's hard to really put into words what it is about it. And I'm a Nationals fan, and Nats Park doesn't do that to me. Like, I love Nats Park, but like, you don't walk in and all of a sudden there's just like the full weight of history on you.
Oh yeah. I mean, Globe Life in Arlington doesn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How jealous were you that Bella got to go to the All-Star game and draft for that? One of our other colleagues who in the media and one of your good friends, Bella, who apparently, I don't know where she lives because she's just constantly on the road now, but she got to go to the draft and the All-Star game at Globe Life, and I'm sure you were a little jealous there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we had one of the guys I work with up here, one of our interns.
That's right, he was there too.
Went as well, and he texted me at one point. He's like, "This event is tailor-made for you." Like, commissioners walking out of like saloon doors in the stockyards, which is a legitimate rodeo like venue, to say the picks. And like the Futures game, their media shoot, they had them all in cowboy hats with their like jerseys on and the bats, and it was happening at Globe Life. And Bella sent me a ton of like "don't mess with Texas" photos things, and I was like, you need to stop, because this is like my perfect draft. This is where I'd want to be especially because two of the UNC guys went to the Rangers.
I was about to bring up Casey Cook going to the Rangers. Who was the other one that ended up getting drafted?
Went to the Rangers.
Oh, he got drafted by the. I knew he got drafted. I just didn't. Once you get to those later rounds, it's hard to keep track of all the teams.
Most like Dalton Pence place to go. It was either that or Atlanta. I was like, you have to go to one of those two places because that just fits your personality. But Casey getting drafted, I was actually at the beach with some friends because it's Cape Cod. You got to go to the beach. And I keep like watching my MLB app like refresh with the picks. And I mean, obviously I knew his floor, his ceiling, all the projections. And you're getting down to the later part of the third. And the Astros, it was the Astros, the D-backs, and then the Rangers. And I was like, okay, so there's a chance. And then the Rangers pick just like wouldn't load for so long. And then it said Casey Cook. And I screamed, and all my friends at the beach looked at me like I was a crazy person. They're like, did you see someone? I was like, no. My favorite team just got like a really good minor league player. And they're like, okay, whatever. I was very excited.
I laughed because I don't know you that well, but the first thing I thought of when I saw that is you. Because you're the only like diehard Rangers fan I know. So and we talked about Casey Cook, and you were high on Casey Cook being being higher ranked than he should have been in terms of the draft stock. So like for some reason like I laughed because I immediately thought of you when I saw that, and I was like, Grace is going to be pumped.
Oh, I got
texts. Yeah.
That are like, oh my gosh, did you see that he went to the Rangers? And then even when Dalton went, I got people like, did you see he went to the Rangers? And I was like, yeah. And what was funny about that one too is a lot earlier, Casey and I had just kind of like joked about teams, and he's like, yeah, like Texas would be a cool place to live. And I was like, you need to buy a pair of cowboy boots. You can't say that you live in Texas, don't have a pair. And then of course, when he went to the Rangers, I was like, oh, we've predicted this one.
Yep.
But I'm so happy for everyone that got drafted. Shea got drafted by the Red Sox, which is like his hometown team. Vance, I think the Orioles system is just, if anyone is going to unlock the hitting capability of Vance Honeycutt, it will be the Orioles. I think they're able to do it, just their development program. And he fits like the mold of every single other Orioles prospect that they've ever had. There's so many good memes on Twitter for that. Just go look it up. But it was a good day for a good 3 days for the UNC guys.
Yeah, I think I was sitting there right before Vance and I was like, all right, I don't think the Orioles are going to take him because they have a ton of outfield prospects. And I was like, but the Dodgers were right behind the Orioles. And I was like, oh no, because there's another team that if they could fix the hit tool, it's the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are the Dodgers.
Yep.
And I was like, they're going to end up getting the best player in the draft because they're going to help him cut down on the strikeouts, and he's going to be like the next Mike Trout, like if he goes to the Dodgers. So I was like, it seemed like it was set up for that. And the Orioles, him go to the Orioles is also fantastic for the reasons you mentioned too. So he's ended up in a good spot, I think, by falling a little bit to one of those teams. So,
I think it's a great spot for him. I would like, I had to listen to the radio of it. Well, Bella texted me right before the pick came in officially.
Yeah. She was doing that a little bit.
Yeah, on the radio, because I was driving back from Bourne Braves had just finished a game, and I was driving back from there. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, he got drafted. It was big.
Yeah, it was so exciting. I was watching the draft and trying to keep up and do some memes or some graphics, and it worked really well for day one. After I think I was able to get a couple on day two, and then I was just overwhelmed because there were like 5 ACC picks in a row, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, so many picks. It was crazy.
Yeah. So the other really cool thing you got to do, and you were very busy for it because you were running the social, but the home run derby and the All-Star game.
Oh yeah.
And I unfortunately had a family event, so I was not able to watch the home run derby. I was super excited about it because Brody Donay is like a monster. I know he didn't have the best performance, but like I was really excited to see him. Ethan Petrie's been on fire, so I really liked the lineup. What was that experience like?
Well, that day was really long because I had to get there at like 10 in the morning. And I was there at Gov Fuller Field in Falmouth. Luckily, I live in Falmouth, so not far, all day. and it was exhausting. I was carrying around like a gallon jug of water. I looked like one of the players, like at my little like table. It was a long day. And that field is a little bit harder to hit balls out of because the outfield fence is so high. They actually don't even have distance markers on the fence. So summer ball.
Yep.
So just to ask for a sack, that's probably one of the hardest fields to actually have the home run derby at. Brody did not do well. It was just a cool thing to watch. And I was trying to like live tweet it as much as possible. I thought that the East was gonna just like run away with it. Because it was Brody Dene, Ryder Helfrich, and then Ethan Petrie. And Petrie's been on fire lately. Helfrich leads the league in homers. And then one of the guys on the West wasn't even an all-star. He basically just like subbed in. I don't actually know why. I was at the all-star meeting when they picked him. That was chaotic. Just a lot of yelling by coaches.
I would love to hear more about that process.
I just got to see the decision-making process of picking the all-stars. There was an East table, there was a West table, and then there was like intern table in the middle, where we're getting ready with the PR release, the graphics, the social stuff, writing up bios on each of the players, working on game notes. And it did take a while. All the coaches got to leave within 2 hours, and we were there for another few.
Right.
But it was a really cool experience, and it came off to like a swing off between Nate Early, who's going to Louisville.
Yep.
He wasn't even the all-star. He was like one of the sub guys. And then Petrie, and I mean, I've watched Petrie dominate. I have obviously Gavin's on the YD Red Sox, but I know a lot of the guys on the YD team, and I've seen them play a lot. And so just watched him dominate, and I was like, okay, all right, he's going to take this one. But seeing that kind of like swing off, stuff like that, it was really cool. And then we had 2 more hours till the game actually started. And then we had the whole game, which took a while. It was a long day, but it was a good one. But I'm also happy it's over at the same time.
And hopefully you got all day Sunday off, just like everybody else, right?
We were supposed to get all day Sunday off, and I did take it. Well, we've had this problem of rain recently.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so there were
like Port Katuitt has to play one doubleheader, and if they get rained out again, they will have to play multiple doubleheaders. They don't have lights, so if there's any rain delay, they're kind of screwed. They've adapted from, instead of starting their games at 5 now, they're starting them at 4 or 4:30 to deal with the calls for darkness that happens at 3 of the fields, because those 3 don't have lights, which is just such a Cape Cod issue to have.
Yeah. It always cracks me up when the game's just called for darkness.
It's so un-American, so un-baseball, but it is so Cape Cod Summer League.
Yep, absolutely. So All-Star game was awesome. That was a walk-off?
Yes, it was a walk-off by Kane Kepley.
That's right. All right, we're going to talk about him a lot.
Tar Heel. Might as well talk about him now because we're talking about a walk-off. But I had literally talked to him 2 days earlier for a piece for IC I just did, kind of introducing your newest Tar Heel, especially because Scott Jackson, the former Liberty head coach, is now one of the assistants. And Kane's coming over. He's from Salisbury, just like Cam Padgett and Vance are. He and Padgett were like really good friends, and then they also went to rival high school, so he's super excited to be back with him. Who Padgett's he's playing for the Bourne Braves right now. But I talked to him. He is such a tough out at the plate. Such a tough out. Like, his on-base percentage is a good, like, 200 points or 100 points higher than his slugging percentage. Like, he's not really going to hit for a ton of power, but he's such a tough out. And so he comes up, both the East and the West are just, like, out of pitching. And, I mean, they had a guy on, I think Brandon Compton was on third. So all Kane needed was some sort of base hit. And he got one, and they all swarmed him. And, of course, I wrote, who better to fit in with his new team than Kane Kepley, who's already showed in clutch moments he's got the walk-off heroics. Because, I mean, that's what UNC needs. So I think he's going to be a really great addition. He's just such a gritty player. He's going to scratch and claw for anything. Such a good team guy. And I'm really excited to see him. Really sad he wasn't named MVP. So happy for Ethan Conrad, who was the West MVP. But I really wanted to type out All-Star MVP, UNC Tar Heel, Kane Kepley. Did not get to do that one, though.
Yeah, instead you had to settle for a Wake Forest transfer, a guy transferring to Wake Forest.
Exactly.
At least it wasn't a Duke guy, I guess.
That's true. I think there was one Duke guy in the All-Star game.
Yeah, Ed Hart, I believe, made the.
He and I are actually friends, and one of the Falmouth.
He's from Texas.
He's from Texas, and one of the Falmouth broadcasting interns makes fun of me that like one of my favorite players on Falmouth goes to Duke, and I was like, it's just a Texas thing, I promise you.
Yeah, well, I was campaigning a little bit hard for him because I was surprised he was not on the initial roster. Because I think he's had because he almost every time he pitches, he makes my ACC top performers graphic. So I was like. Yeah. How did he get left out? And eventually he got in there, so that's good. And so I was happy for him because Duke gave me a ton of access this year, so I have a soft spot for Duke, even though it's weird because I'm a UVA guy and I dislike Duke in everything else, but their baseball team has a little soft spot for me. But yeah, no, really cool. Kane Kepley leads the Cape with 36 walks, and I believe he's going to break the record if he has not already. I think I can't remember who held it. I was watching a game and they did some sort of trivia on it, and I forgot who it was, but I want to say Robin Ventura.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, which tells you how old that record is, because Robin Ventura would have been in the 80s, late 80s, I believe.
And the fact that we still have it is pretty impressive, since to figure out records, we just have to send a text to this guy who apparently has all the league historics, which are notoriously sometimes hard to find. I mean, his walk-off was the first in All-Star history that the All-Star game has ended.
Yeah.
So already making history on the Cape.
Oh yeah, that was surprising. So we've talked about one UNC guy. We briefly mentioned Gavin Gallagher. I feel like I know he's only got like a 219 average, but he's made my graphic a couple times. But it also feels like he finds a way to drive in a run every now and then. And he's in a YD lineup that at one point it's still stacked, but at one point it had Drew Burris, Wahi Aloy, and RJ Austin, a bunch of Team USA guys. I just couldn't believe how stacked this YD lineup was. And he was batting down. He bats down towards the bottom, and it felt like he was driving in runs every day. What have you seen from him? I mean, I was a little surprised he didn't get a Team USA invite.
I was also surprised. I do know that the infield for Team USA is just, I mean, it's stacked. Merrick Houston's here. He was there. Yeah. There's a ton of guys, but in specific with Gavin is I think batting average is just really misleading. He is getting guys in. That YD lineup it's so like they're my pick to win it all. Which is hard to make when you have so much player turnover. But they really are stacked, and he's hitting down near the bottom, and they've had him at second. They've had him at third. He turned a fantastic double play last night against the Commodores. He hit a double right before like a game was fogged out, which was definitely going to lead to some sort of runs. And I also think here on the Cape, you kind of have to take the batting average with a grain of salt, which doesn't always happen. You have some guys, like I'll talk about Jaron later, but he's hitting like 400, which is wild and crazy. But you also have guys who are really talented. Burris did not hit well here. Like Big 12 Player of the Year, well, now he's going to be in the SEC, but like Max Blue also did not hit well here. You have so many really talented guys that just sometimes their timing isn't right, whatever. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be bad at the next level. They just haven't always connected it. And like, for example, Casey hit like 196 last year in the regular season here. He had one home run in the playoffs. And then his redshirt freshman year, he hit 3 homers. And this year he hit like 18.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it doesn't always translate. And I mean, Gavin is still getting some really good experience. I talked to some of the scouts at Fenway. They really like him. He's going to be dynamic both at the plate and wherever he is on the dirt. And it is a really long season, especially for him. He got maybe a few weeks off after Omaha, and now he's like, I definitely know he's feeling it. But that he's the only position player besides Kane now for UNC up here. And I think next year it will completely pay off.
Yeah, I know Luke needed some time off from Team USA. I think he got a little bit of a little strain or something in the middle of that and needed time off. I mean, there's a number of factors that people need to think about. Like, obviously you've got the metal to wood bat adjustment. You've got guys trying different things because it's an opportunity for them to kind of adjust their mechanics if they need to, or something or work on. They've got a list of things that they need to work on. And then, with a lot of these freshmen, they haven't played this much baseball. And, Drew Burris had a little bit of a break between the regionals and Omaha, but Gavin didn't. I felt when I watched Jason DeCaro pitch, I was like, that arm needs such a rest for Team USA, because I was like, he was still looking pretty good, but it was like he's pitched so much, because I kept thinking he was going to start to struggle down the stretch as a freshman with all the innings he pitched, and he was still strong in Omaha and at Team USA. So really impressive. But we'll shift a little bit to the players who've impressed you the most. You mentioned a new ACC guy for Cal, who's hitting near 400. Let's talk about. I don't want to butcher the last name. I've written it so many times. Advicula. There we go.
I had to ask him, and I've heard the Katuitt announcer say it a lot. Jaron Advicula. He was first team, I think, all Pac-12 in his first season at Cal. He's hitting 400 right now, like evenly 400. At one point, he was hitting 417. Like, this kid is just, his ability to hit the ball, make contact, bat to ball skills, wild and crazy. I've talked to him a few times. I did like this story on him before the All-Star game, and then one of the other guys for the Cape did one on Caden Kent, so we kind of showcase some infielders. I love watching him play. He's when he runs out on the dirt to play second, you have never seen someone more excited. Like, he just looks, most of the time, he looks so excited. He's got such a good smile, such a good way to be there. If it does not go well at the plate, like, you will know. He's what he said, and some of his teammates said, he's like a baseball perfectionist, which is why his batting average is so high. Because he sees things, he tweaks things, and he's just he cares so much, so he's so hard on himself to like get it right every time. But he's really stood out in a Katuitt team that has been, I think Katuitt has added and released the most players of any team. They have one pitcher that they had in June. One singular one, who is not an ACC guy, but it's Michael Ebner, and he has also been fantastic. He and Ed both have, especially for that West Division, they have both shut down when they've come in games. I think Mikey, it took him like a ton of, maybe it was like 12 innings, might have been 9 innings before he allowed a single run. He only has 4 earned runs charged to him, and I think at least 2 or 3 of them are off a home run. Like, just one bad pitch. Even in the All-Star game, I was watching, and one guy got kind of like a bloop single that deflected off his glove, and then the other one Mikey hit, and I was like, this is super rare, and he still got out of the inning, and there was no outs with 2 guys on. I think he's going to be a really great piece for USC next year. I think he should transfer to UNC. Super biased. But he's been fantastic on that Katuitt team. Tanner Thatch, who also not ACC but UNCW guy, he has been awesome. Brandon Compton, ASU, has been awesome. They've had a lot of really good pieces. I mean, not ACC pieces, but some really good pieces. And then, I feel like when we're talking about the ACC, it's hard for me to not talk about some of the Team USA guys. Daniel Cuvée.
Oh my gosh, he's unbelievable, isn't he?
He's so good. The Brewster, if you just go look through the Brewster lineup, you're like, how are they not
better?
winning games?
Yeah.
It's Brody Dene, Caden Kent, Daniel Cuvée, Ryder
Helfrich,
Nick Dumasel. They had like 9 All-Stars.
Drew Farrow.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Drew Farrow. He's on my list. And then you just have some wild card pitchers there. You have Levi Huseman, Patrick Forbes. He left.
Forbes bump day was my jam for a while.
Clemente bump day is really big for all the interns here. Jake Clemente is just, I met him at Fenway Day, and I was like, I don't even know how to describe you. You're such a character. Like, talking with him next to Boston Flannery, who's just a yapper, such a different vibe, and it was so fun. Boston actually pitched his best outing of the Cape yesterday, which was 2 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts. His thing to come up here is his bullpen's fantastic. He just needs some confidence on the mound to do the same thing that he does in the bullpens on the mound. So hopefully he's getting there. It's the same thing with Olin Johnson, who's pitching for the Mariners. The Harwich Mariners.
Yeah.
He had a really good outing actually against his UNC teammate Cam Padgett. Their pitching days have lined up twice now, and they've played each other on those days, which is awesome coincidence for me. But he went, I think, 4 scoreless innings. I think it was 4 strikeouts, and that game was broadcast on NESN. So afterwards, I was like, Olin, you're on NESN, and you did pretty well. And that was, I think, one of the 2 Harwich Mariners wins in the month of July until yesterday.
Yeah, they had a really, they were like 9-6, and then just completely fell apart.
Yeah, it was not a great time for them, but proud of him. And then the duo of Merrick Houston and Ethan Conrad, that is a pretty great duo. They were both in the All-Star game. I talked to both of them. Poor Merrick, I made him get mic'd up for IO, and he was like, why am I doing this? And I was like, I'm so sorry. It's my job, dude. But I know Ethan's super excited to play with him. He just won the West Game MVP. He did tell me, he was like, yeah, I almost did an official visit to UNC. And I was like, dude, come on now. He's like, but I went to Winston. And I was like, I got to go to Wake. I was like, all right, fine. He actually told us that he and Merrick played against each other last summer in the Perfect Game Collegiate Summer Ball League. And he was like, that's when I knew I wanted to go to Wake. So I guess Wake can thank Merrick for that one.
Yeah, I'm so excited for a lot of these guys that are transferring that you don't know about. Now the Cape is like your first chance to see them. And Ethan Conrad has been so impressive to me. I mean, he's got 17 steals in this is a short season.
Oh, yeah.
And he's running, and he's hitting 365, an OPS of 868. He's having a monster summer. And Wake Forest really needs to reload offensively a bit. So that's a big underrated piece that they got, and I'm really excited to see him play in Winston-Salem. But yeah, that's got to be a blow. Saying he was going to do an official visit to UNC and then didn't. He's like, it's ooh.
Another guy that I talked to about that was Camden Kozel, who transferred from Vandy to Arkansas. His story is actually super cool. Speaking about Omaha, it was like the first game I was there, and I just met a lot of the other interns I was working with. Obviously, I'd texted with them before, and they kept me updated while I was in Omaha. But I was like, yeah, I just want to go ask like one of these guys some questions. And they're like, okay, go ahead. And so I end up talking with Camden for like 10 minutes. And I find out, because I knew he was from Omaha, his dad is one of the grounds crew members for the College World Series. And he was I grew up running around Rosenblatt and then Charles Schwab. And I was like, whoa. And I come back to my like fellow interns. They're like, dude, it's your first day. And you've already talked after the game to like 5 different people in the span of like 20 minutes. And I was like, I know, it's just so happy to be here. But you told me that after his like during high school when he was visiting, he did an official visit to UNC. And I was like, oh, come on now. You can't tell me that. But he's been impressive too. I mean, also not an ACC guy. He's SEC. But Jackson West for Florida State. He does this cool thing during BP where he'll bring out, like, it looks like a piece of fence, like a white piece of fence, and he'll put one of his feet on there, like his back plant foot, and just work really on the rotation of his body. I've seen him do it a few times. I don't know if it's just like and I need to do this today type of thing, or like a routine thing that he does, but it's really funny to watch him like walk out with he's eating his Chipotle, he's walked out with his bat and his like piece of wooden fence. But he's been really impressive, which I like. I got to meet a few of the Tennessee guys, sadly, that like hit homers off people, like Reese Chapman had to be him, not who hit a homer off of Shea. I was like, okay, it's you. Especially the All-Star game with all of the guys in one place. There are some really awesome people. Another one who went to USA who hasn't had like maybe the most amount of success on the Cape is Zion Rose.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he is special. He actually roomed with Luke during USA. And so he and I came up and I was like, hi Zion, like I cover UNC. Well, I work for the league, I cover UNC. Because when they played in Chapel Hill, Zion had such a weekend. And all of our IC message boards were like, can we get Zion Rose? Can we get Zion Rose? We did not get Zion Rose, but that's fine. And I talked to him. He's just such an awesome guy. I saw him after the game yesterday. Falmouth won, which is really big. They need to win to hopefully, if they want to go to the playoffs, because the top 8 teams, top 4 from each division go, which I think is a little bit crazy since the West is just so much better than the East right now.
Yeah.
But I can't control that. And Zion is just an incredible dude. I can't wait to watch him absolutely just like wreak havoc next year. Hopefully not on the Tar Heels, but just in general.
And I think he's gonna have a big year now that he's just focusing on being an outfielder instead of having to worry about the catching position. He talked to Micah after one of the Team USA games and was giving Micah crap for not predicting Louisville in something, and it was pretty funny to hear that story. But Zion is awesome. I can't wait to watch him make that jump from first year to second year.
Oh yeah, and he's also at a school that I don't think is like known for baseball or for producing amazing players. And another guy, there's a few kids here that, I mean, some of them have transferred, obviously, like Ethan Conrad from Marist. But there's a few kids here that I really like about the Cape is you're not just getting like the big name guys that are coming from your ACC schools, your SEC schools. You're even like Oregon State has some guys, Gavin Turley and Trent Caraway, who are playing really well too. But you get some guys from these smaller schools or that didn't play as much that are really showing how good they are. One of those who's on the top of so many, it's like Ethan Petrie, Ryder Helfrich, Murph Gray for Fresno State. That dude is so good at baseball, and he's a third baseman. He's just, he's awesome. I can't wait to see. He's going to like kill at Fresno State. But he's a super awesome player. There's just so many. I'm surrounded by awesome talent, and I can't complain.
Yeah, it's super exciting just hearing you talk about it, and also the fact that sometimes you take a very analytical, mechanical look. I mean, we talked about it a little bit in Omaha. Like at one point, you were trying to fix Vance Honeycutt's swing.
He did basically do what I told him to.
Yes. He just didn't know that. Yeah, you just never told him, so he just some telepathical stuff. So you can take credit for that. But like the fact that you noticed Jackson West doing that thing with the, I don't think a lot of people would have necessarily noticed that or remembered it, where he's working on, his back foot and keeping it still.
That's one of the things that I like about all of the access I get. I mean, obviously I'm also here to do a job and I need that, but like Kane Kepley, his batting stance, it's like the Juan Soto, like really low in the legs type of like shuffle almost. And this is a cool place where, I mean, obviously I don't have access to all the TrackMan data and stuff like that. That's all like the teams get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I get so many different stats and I can like nerd out. And especially with the change from metal to wood bats, the difference in timing, the difference in swing. And, it's a really cool thing that I get to do. So.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of cool moments up in the Cape. My favorite so far, they didn't do too much against each other, but Alex Lodice and Kyle Lodice got to face each other. And I made a fun graphic. My highlight of the summer might be the fact they mentioned that that Kyle mentioned that in an interview that when he woke up he saw that and they were both pumped about it. And I was like, that's me. They were talking, yeah. But that they're going to be playing each other in the ACC. One goes to Georgia Tech, one goes to Florida State. That's I mean, there's so many cool things in the Cape. Obviously, I was getting people hyped every time Patrick Forbes was on the mound. The two UNC guys that you've already talked about, Olin Johnson and Cam Paget, when they were facing each other, trying to, just there's so many good things. And I think people are missing out not watching the Cape League, and especially with the way that most of the broadcasts have improved over the last couple of years. It cracks me up every time I see it when I watch a Bourne game when they're at home, and it's got such a backyard baseball field because there's just a house right behind home plate.
That's the thing that I think people either realize or don't realize is that they're literally coming like back in time. Like the thing is, three of the fields don't have lights, and like the Katuitt field, I don't think it will ever. Everyone look up Lowell Park. If you go to a Cape game, you need to go to Lowell Park. It's like the most adorable little place. Like you feel like you've been transported to the early eons of baseball and you're playing it in like a wooded field. It's awesome. But I don't think they're ever going to have lights because I think it's in the contract that you like can't have lights. And Bourne, yes, it looks like it's like backyard baseball. And
so cool.
It's just they take like school buses everywhere. Their like pregame meals are like made by like their host families or like donated by businesses. And they play on these fields that are like high school level fields. Like high schools will play on these fields when they're done. It's so kind of like back to the basics, back to the Sandlot. And I think guys, yes. And I think for guys that go from force plates and like state-of-the-art equipment and just bringing it back to the basics can be really helpful for their mindset, and just to give them a little bit of like you're so lucky to have all this stuff in college. Let's just go play ball. Like let's not think about anything else, the gear, whatever. Let's go play ball.
Yeah, it's I think people are missing out because there's something magical about it. And it's really enjoyable to watch. It's just pure. But you're still getting the cream of the crop college players. I can't remember the statistics, but most of these guys, like most of the American-born MLB players, played in the Cape at some point. It's just such a American-born college players. If they got drafted out of high school, they missed out on that opportunity. But it's just so cool, and I'm jealous that you get to be up there for the whole summer and experience it and get to do this. I'm sure it's exhausting, but it's obviously really, really, really cool.
Yeah, it's exhausting, but it's worth it.
Oh yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, we just discussed briefly the format with the standings, and 8 teams make it, but it's 4 from each division. Is that?
Yes, it's 4 from each division. You have the East, you have the West. Right now, the West is just doing so supremely better than the East.
Yeah.
But they don't take top 8, they take top 4 from each division. Like for example, the worst team in the West is Falmouth, and they're 14-19, which is a better record than Harwich, Brewster, and Orleans, and those are the bottom 3 of the East. So like there's only 2 teams that are better than any of the West teams in the East, which is Whitey, who kind of has just a commanding lead on the standings for East and West. I think they have, just depending on how much pitcher turnover they have, they just released a few yesterday. They have a really good shot at it. The camaraderie between that team, especially their pitchers, is really special. And I think that translates to on-the-field success as well. And then Katuitt has added and released so many players. Their poor housing director. But I think they're right now on top. They have so many rain games they have to make up. But they're currently on top of the West, and Hyannis, with Wareham's loss yesterday, Hyannis and Wareham are right there behind it. Katuitt's at 21 wins. Hyannis, Wareham are both at 20. Katuitt has, I think, 3 rain games they have to make up. So the battle for the West Division leader, the winner, is going to be awesome. All 3 of those teams are basically guaranteed to make it, but the battle for that is going to be fun. And then the battle for Harwich, Brewster, Orleans, which of them are going to make it, which of them are going to not, that will also be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, Brewster's 12 and 21, and we talked about it. The lineup they have and some of the pitching they've had, they should not be on the verge of missing the playoffs. But yeah, and it sounds like there's going to be more turnover probably this week because we're getting into the.
Oh, yeah. It's after the All-Star game. It's there's 2 big points. It's when after kind of Omaha, a week after that, you'll have guys that come in, and then you'll have the USA guys are up there early, and then they go to USA, and then some of them will come back. But then it's after the draft, obviously, because you have a lot of guys that go. And then it's after the All-Star game because a lot of the pitchers have reached their innings restrictions, or the college coaches want them home. A lot of them haven't been home in a while, so they want to go home for a week or 2 before they have to report to their respective schools. So a lot of the guys that I've gotten to know are leaving, which makes me really sad. But especially because sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to see you again. I know you're in the ACC now, but you're at Stanford.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Yeah. So it's kind of a bittersweet part of the summer, but it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just interesting to see because I know there's going to be a lot of turnover trying to keep track of which ACC and SEC players are still there. So, because sometimes the website doesn't get updated for their new schools if they're transfers. So, that's where it's always tricky because there's a couple times where I've accidentally had somebody on the graphic who's no longer at that school. I think I had Josh Tate, who I think transferred to Georgia Southern a year and a half ago, and I somehow put him at Georgia. But it's really exciting stuff. Who I know you kind of mentioned it. You've already made your pick for who's going to win it all. But just to go over it again, give me the team that's going to win it all and your league MVP.
So I think my East winner will be YD. I also know who they're starting the first game because the way the playoffs work, it's weird. It's single elimination until you get to the World Series, then it's a series. Which maybe it should be reversed the other way around, which I think the guys think that too. But I'm pretty sure YD is going to at least make it to that World Series for the East. They have a few starters that are still going to be there who are pretty fantastic. I say that and they just lost last night. But they're pretty incredible. And then I think they can win it all. I think that the people to watch against them is probably going to be Hyannis. Sorry, Katuitt. I think it's going to be Hyannis. I think they just they're gritty, they're scrappy. They just they beat Wareham 15-8 last night. And Wareham is a very good and solid team. And they were on top of the West for most of the season. So Hyannis would be my pick there. And then I think if YD wins it, it's got to be Ethan Petrie. That dude is just he's just insane. And almost all of the leaderboards, Advicula leads an average. Petrie's number 3 as a power hitter. Petrie is tied for second in homers. He's on the list for RBIs. Ryder's on there as well. Ryder, I think it's Ryder and Petrie who can definitely be on there. He's third in OBP behind Merrick Houston and Jaron Advicula. He's leading in slugging and OPS, and he's on the lead in hits. He's on the lead in doubles. He's an offensive machine for them right now, and I think if they go all the way, they're going to need him to show up. And if they do, I think he has a really good shot at winning MVP.
I like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he catches Helfrich in this last week to at least tie the home run lead. If Helfrich doesn't get any more.
He also won the home run derby.
Yep. So he's had a great summer. And
more hardware for Ethan Petrie. Keep it coming.
Absolutely. And he's a player everyone. I'm surprised he didn't get. I mean, maybe he did the Team USA the year before, and I can't remember if he did or not, but I was surprised he wasn't a Team USA guy this year. But he's a fantastic player for South Carolina and a lot of fun to watch. Somebody, considering I don't get to watch a lot of SEC since I'm so focused on ACC, but we can wrap this up. Grace, it has been an absolute pleasure. You don't know it yet, but you're going to be on the show next season.